I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features through our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE, symbol CRL, and the pink symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor for WeissGroup.com. Happy Christmas and Merry New Year.
Yes, same to you, Jim.
Sean, over the past year, what do you think was the hottest thing to have been invested in?
Well, my subscribers have done very well in a couple of things. One is uranium stocks. I mean, we've got some nice gains banked in uranium stocks. Those have done well. We did okay in gold. Could have done better, but I think gold was a bit of a disappointment this year. One thing we did very well in earlier and then had to take gains and get out was electronic payments. And I'm really surprised that those stocks have fallen down as much as they have. I'd be looking for a bottom early in 2019 because, I like to play the big trends, the big cycles, and that is a mega trend. Electronic payments, they should do better. I'm not really sure why they're not right now. They're under pressure, but we'll get back in there. We're just going to have a good buying opportunity coming up because we made some nice gains in those last year as well.
Was oil a disappointment after it seemed to be on a good charge?
Well, I made some oil gains, also took a couple losses. It depends on how you play it. I mean, oil is it's such a huge industry and such a huge sector. There are companies that are still making money and doing quite well in oil, and so I think as long as you look at it cyclically and you try and buy near some kind of A bottom, not B bottom, but A bottom, and when things start to get overheated and you start seeing people trot out on CNBC to talk about $100 oil, well, then of course you're going to sell. So just play it cyclically. I think it's okay. We made some gains. We banked some nice gains in oil. Could have banked some more. Sorry about the losses we took. Going into 2019, as we talked about in a recent show, the biggest thing that's going to influence the price of oil is the global economy. If it can keep ramping up or if it starts to slump lower, because that will dictate really where the price of oil goes no matter what OPEC does.
Internationally, how did the markets perform for you?
Well, we didn't have a bad year, but, the S&P 500 is ending the year pretty flat. So, it all depends on, what you're doing, where you're doing it, that kind of thing. One trend we saw in 2018 was money kept flowing from around the rest of the world into the U.S. markets, pumping up our stocks for a long, long time, at least until September or October, when many people thought that trend would end before that. So that was a bullish thing for U.S. stocks. It wasn't helpful for others.
Mm-hmm. Marijuana stocks, were they a big performer for you?
Most of my marijuana gains were early in the year, and they were placed actually back in 2017. We got stopped out of some things this year. It was not a good year for marijuana stocks. That doesn't mean that the story is written, that it's done. I think we're actually at a nice entry point, considering how many of these stocks have been beaten down. You have to be awfully careful. There's some charges and counter charges being swapped around right now over whether certain companies are shams or not. So we'll have to see how that goes. But one thing I think people want to look at is that Canada's already had its legalization, right? But the U.S. hasn't. There are individual states that have, but on a federal level, we haven't. I believe that's coming. It's coming slower than a lot of people thought. I don't expect it'll happen in 2019. But there's an opportunity there with the U.S.-based cannabis stocks that could be quite extraordinary. There's really some upside potential for a lot of them.
perhaps somebody has to convince President Trump that there's a real estate connection to legal marijuana.
I think that if Trump came out and said that he was going to legalize marijuana and use that to, I don't know, build his wall and like whatever else, let's say cut down on the U.S. deficit, that would be a tremendous boost for him and the Republicans. But he does not seem to have the will to do that. And instead, he continues to listen to bad advice from people who have a grudge against marijuana for some reason. I can't figure that out. You know, it makes it an interesting market. So we'll just have to see how that goes.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and Canada. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, were cryptocurrencies a huge disappointment or a semi-fraud, you might say?
I don't know about semi-fraud. They were a huge disappointment, certainly for anyone who had invested in them. I mean, it was a terrible year for cryptos, wasn't it? When you look at how things went, things like Bitcoin, I mean, earlier this year, that was trading at 11,000. Now it's at 34 or something. That is not a trend you want to be bullish on. I mean, you don't want to be riding that one the wrong way. It seems weird, but the crypto market peaked when the futures market for crypto came out. And, you can read in all kinds of conspiracies on that and like stuff like that. I don't think it's the end of crypto. I actually think, the actual blockchain, the blockchain technology involved in it has a much brighter future, especially as cyber attacks and like stuff like that becomes more and more prevalent. One thing we also did not badly in this past year was in cybersecurity, and I expect I'll be doing more stuff in cybersecurity because the attacks are relentless. They're relentless in there, and so these companies have a bright future, and blockchain could be part of that answer. So, I think people should focus less on crypto and more on blockchain. That would be the way I would do it.
It's the problem with cryptocurrencies. A, they're very unstable, and B, it costs a lot of money to make a transaction with one if you plan to actually use it as a currency.
Right. Can you imagine how the U.S. dollar or the Canadian dollar would be treated as a currency if there was a huge transaction cost with every transaction you wanted to make? That just wouldn't be any good. And so, yeah, that really holds it back. So, maybe that's one thing they'll work out in the future. I was thinking about that this morning. It used to be calling long distance, like when I call you in Vancouver, it used to be that would cost us a tremendous amount of money. And if you were working for, say, a newspaper, like I did back in the old-timey days, and you made a long-distance call like that, you'd have to justify to your boss why you made this long call and spent all this money on it and all that stuff. And that, nowadays, no. It's all on your regular phone bill. It's much cheaper. There's none of that stuff anymore. Crypto's still waiting for that revolution. But that revolution could be out there. And when that happens, it'll probably become much more popular.
Is there a big difference between a digital currency and a cryptocurrency?
I could have you talk to, say, Tony Sagami or one of the other guys here who really concentrates on cryptos. I don't. And so I'm going to defer any more questions on them.
Yeah, is that one of the problems with cryptocurrencies? It's a pretty complicated subject.
And also I can make a lot more money elsewhere.
What do you think is going to be the big money maker in the new year?
I'm really, really happy with how things are shaping up in uranium right now. Things are looking really good. Now, a lot depends on whether we have a recession or not. And this is one of the things, the risk of recession arising. That does not guarantee a recession, by the way. But, for example, what many people are looking at is that the short-term 2-year U.S. Treasury note yields rose above the 5-year Treasury note yields. That's the inversion of the yield curve. And like many people say that this is a harbinger of a recession. And it has, in fact, happened before each of the past 7 recessions. What many people don't realize is that the past 2 times it happened, it was more than 24 months until the recession actually occurred. So what there is an old saying, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. There are things for the market to fear, but it gets so afraid of things sometimes that it kind of paralyzes movement, and you have huge sell-offs based on nothing but the fear itself. So I think that this is a good market for traders, but investors may find it more challenging, just like they found 2018 challenging, because, a 1% gain in the major index, that isn't what we were used to. We were used to the S&P 500 going up year after year after year. That kind of came to an end in 2018. Now, that could change in 2019. Maybe we just had a 1-year rest, or else maybe we're going to have huge volatility and big swings up and then big slides down again. And so in that case, it could become a trader's market.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick. Braden, we return.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, do you have a naughty and nice list for us?
Naughty and nice.
Well, who's been really nice?
Well, I mean, again, we have made money in uranium. We have made money in certain gold stocks, especially South African gold miners who've done very well. We just picked them up near the bottom. And it's mainly the larger cap stocks that are doing very well for us, but that doesn't mean the small caps don't have potential. In fact, if, we can work out our trade problems and our treaty problems, small caps, because they've been beaten down recently and below the 200-day moving average and stuff like that, they could have a heck of a run. So you might want to say they were naughty, but they could be on the nice list if things turn around. I might say that for small caps, definitely. And one thing is that I've been speaking to my subscribers about this. We seem to have entered permanent campaign mode in the U.S., and that's, exhausting for many of us. We don't want permanent campaign mode, but who that's very good for is the broadcasting companies. Those radio and television companies that are listed publicly are just getting money thrown at them by political advertisers. So if you don't have a position in that industry right now, you might want to consider putting one of those on your nice list, because they're probably going to do very well in 2019 as this permanent campaign unrolls. One thing that I would like to mention about that is that we are probably headed for serious gridlock in Washington, D.C. in 2019. And you don't have to be Nostradamus to see that one, right? But President Trump does not get along with the Democrats. So things people might have been counting on, like a big infrastructure bill, something like that, because I keep hearing this phrase over and over again, having streets that don't have potholes and having bridges that don't fall down is neither a Republican or a Democratic issue. It's an issue everybody can get behind. Yes, unless Washington is in gridlock. So people who might have been counting on some infrastructure spending, I think that the odds are actually against that happening because of the gridlock we're going to see in Washington, D.C. in 2019. So infrastructure stocks may have had a bid because of that. And you might have to put those on the naughty list because things might not work out for them at all.
Was 2018 a year where geopolitics had a much bigger influence on the markets than the usual trading fundamentals?
Well, I think people could argue that many ways, but it's a year in which the U.S. really shook up its existing alliances and said, this isn't working for us. We want something new. And anytime something like that happens, you know, then you see people start to resent that. Alliances fall apart. And even new alliances that we thought we had might not be there. For example, President Trump put a lot of pressure on Saudi Arabia to not cut oil production because he is of the opinion that lower oil prices help the economy. I happen to think that because of all the oil production in the U.S., it's much more complicated than that, but it doesn't matter. That's the pressure that he put on Saudi Arabia. But instead, at the OPEC meeting, Saudi Arabia actually did a cut, and a larger cut than anyone was expecting. So that just shows that our alliances are under stress. And you can blame all sorts of people for it. Sometimes there's no one to blame. Sometimes things just change. You know, I mean, anyone who's been in a relationship knows that. And so our alliances with Europe, our relationship with China, our relationship with Russia, our relationship with South American countries, these all seem to be under stress. And so that, I think, is only going to intensify going forward into 2019 as well. Who is this good for, you might ask? Well, it's usually good for defense stocks. That's an industry that does very well as global tensions heat up. We made a nice gain on a drone maker last year, as a matter of fact, and then we sold it as it pulled back, and boy, it went down and down and down. I might have to pick that thing up again because, you know what? This should be a great year for defense stocks as global tensions increase.
Sean, all the best to you and your family.
All the best to you, too, and all the best to your listeners as well.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor for WeissGroup.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter at HowStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Questions for our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Best of the season.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.